Call on you, and we will start with David Lake. David, go ahead.
Hey, Coach, wanted to start, I guess, by asking you about the flea flicker play. I guess, when did you think maybe that, or why did you think that was something that might hit in the game? How much of, dialing that up was about the timing of when to call it and just in general, the overall execution of the play, how it came together?
They talked all week about stopping the run, right? And getting obsessed about stopping the run, being more physical. So I figured their safeties would be aggressive. So it was a play that through the course of the game planning, I wanted to run, but I didn't necessarily know like what set and how it was going to be organized until we had all the formations and personnel groupings that we wanted to use. And then I had to make sure in that situation because I did think they would bring pressure. I had to make sure that it was being a two back set helped because then I could have one back protecting and one back handling the ball. And so the execution of that was the running backs did a phenomenal job. I know the throw and the catch is what gets all the praise, but Mark and Marty on that play really made the play. The up front, the O line gave us a great pocket. They triggered the two running backs, and after Mark tossed it back, he went and protected. So it was a super clean pocket, and Malley made the right decision on the in the middle route. And so it's one of those deals that, and I don't really have a situation I want to call that in. I'm not a, if you take it in golf terms, I'm more of a Freddie Couples play caller than a Bryson DeChambeau. I'm not very structured that way. So it's all about feel. And we got a big turnover, and I just felt like if we hit it, it would take the wind out of their sail a little bit of a gut punch. And then if we didn't hit it, we're at midfield and just play football. So pretty pretty easy decision right there. I mean, I could have called it in other situations, but I just felt like that was the proper time.
I want to ask you about just play action in general. Obviously, that play was play action or kind of a play action, but
Yeah.
seemed like play action was big against Florida State in general. And also just seems like, correct me if I'm wrong, but it seems like you're doing play action a little bit more this year in general compared to last year. Is that just leaning into Carson's strength with that? Is that something he does well? What goes into him executing play action well?
He does do it well. He does a great job with the ball. The ball gets stuck in the running back's belly, and he really does a good job selling it. But it probably more so has to do with our ability to run the football. I know people are going to be obsessed with stopping the run. So if you're going to run the ball efficiently, you need to play action efficiently. And so just trying to find ways to match up those play action shots with the run game that we're running of the week. And so, but yeah, I mean, Carson it's a combination of both to be fair. I mean, Carson's really good at it. He throws a really, really good deep ball, but we're also up front. We're really efficient in the run game, so it's going to get hats down so we can get some one-on-one shots.
Next, we'll go to Adam Lichtenstein. Adam, go ahead.
Hey Shannon, thanks for doing this today. I was just asking Mario a few minutes ago, kind of just about like that late game decision making process. Like how much of it is feel and like game situation? How much do you guys, are you talking to the players about what feels like, what the feel of the game is, and how much of it is, going to analytics and looking at that and seeing what the mathy move, I guess, would be the proper analytic move would be.
I think it's a little bit of both. How the game's going. We want to try to stay aggressive in those situations, and I just listen to them. I just listen to coach. I mean, he's got the analytics and all the stuff, and so I mean, we talk about it and make a decision and roll with it. I mean, I love the decision. I think that we just got to execute the play a little better. I mean, the play was there. It probably scores if Malley doesn't run into the tackle a little bit. There's nobody out there, and so it's the right decision. It's the right play call. It was just lack of execution on our part offensively, which we had a little bit of that in the fourth quarter, and it wasn't anything more to do with anything than like somebody, we kind of traded making mistakes in the fourth quarter a little bit, like one guy here, one guy there. It all comes down to execution. And so we had the play, and I wanted to call it in a situation like that, and we had it, and we had the defense we wanted. We just, didn't connect on it. It happens.
And even with like even earlier, like in the fourth quarter, I'm not trying to question like what you guys did. I'm just curious about the process, I guess, of deciding how much to lean on running the ball, bleed the clock versus trying to pass the ball a little bit, risk stopping the clock, but also try to get those first downs. Like again, like it's kind of what goes into the
Up when you got a healthy lead, 28-3, our defense is playing really.
like even earlier, like in the fourth quarter. I'm not trying to question like what you guys did. I'm just curious about the process, I guess, of deciding how much to lean on running the ball, bleed the clock versus trying to pass the ball a little bit, risk stopping the clock, but also try to get those first downs. Like again, like it's kind of what goes into the process there.
I mean, you do switch your mindset when you're up, when you got a healthy lead, 28-3, our defense is playing really well. And so you want to still be aggressive, but I call it cautiously aggressive. So we're built in a way where we can grind out those games. I mean, we've done it. I mean, in the 80-yard drive against Florida to win the game or to put it 2 touchdowns up. I mean, we ran it almost every time. And so I thought you got to give a little bit of credit to Florida State, obviously, but ultimately it comes down to us executing. And so if you look at those drives and you really break them down, which obviously I have, we had a holding penalty that put us in a hole. Then it really didn't matter after that. Like it's second and whatever, and then we try to get half of it back, and we got a little less than half. Then it becomes 3rd and 16. 3rd and 16, we're backed up. I don't want to do anything stupid in that situation to maybe create a short field for those guys. So that one was more so the penalty kind of put us into a situation that was unworkable. And the other 2 drives, I mean, honestly, if one guy does this certain deal, it's out. I mean, it was one guy here and there, and then we were aggressive on the second down and threw the ball, and we threw it slightly behind him. If he hits him in stride, heck, he might score. At least he's going to get the first down. And then we get the first down on the next drive, and then that's when we went for it on fourth and whatever it was, 8 or 7, and was slightly off on that throw. But ultimately, it really is about execution in those situations. I mean, you do want to kind of, be cautiously aggressive, but still take shots when you can. And we did. I mean, it's not like we ran it every time. We threw it a handful of times. We didn't connect on the throws. And so we were slightly off on the throws. So that's the chances you take in those situations when you do throw it is when it goes incomplete, the clock's not moving. And so, it's damned if you do, damned if you don't right there as far as you want to be aggressive, but you don't want the ball. And there's really no safe throw. I mean, anytime you put the ball in the air, it has a chance to be incomplete. And so I do, with this being said, though, I ultimately trust our guys up front. Like, I have a lot of trust in our guys up front. I have a lot of trust in our running backs. And I do feel that we can grind games out, in those kind of situations. Now, it didn't work out necessarily exactly as I had planned, but well, we had a big enough lead that it didn't matter. So that was good.
Thank you. I think that makes a lot of sense.
Next, we'll go to Gary Furman. Gary, go ahead.
Hey Shannon, how are you? Couple things. Florida State was able to control the running game better than I can't remember, anybody doing the last couple of years. And were they doing something in particular that was disrupting blocking schemes up front or, creating problems?
No, I mean, they just accounted a lot of people to the run game. I mean, run game a lot of times comes down to numbers. And so now I think schematically they did play different than they've played this year. They were more they were a little bit more 4 down and bare. They didn't play a lot of the airy type fronts that they had played, and they didn't blitz as much. They kind of put their feet in the ground and played football. And ultimately, and I've said this multiple times, but I do think the beauty of how we're structured offensively is okay, commit to stopping the run. I mean, we'll throw 70% for 4 touchdowns. So it's either like however you want to play, that's fine. If you want to play off, I think we can pound you and we can dink and dunk. If you want to play like they play and you want to get safeties involved, then you're going to give up big plays. And so, I mean, it's not necessarily, I don't look at it in the sense of we were lacking in the run game. That's just what they chose to take away. Good. Like, you choose to take that away, fine. Your corners better be able to cover. And theirs didn't.
And another, just as a follow up to what you've been talking about recently, I mean, at the expense of contributing to that rat poison that Coach talks about, it's kind of obvious now, 5 games into the season, that this offense is capable of playing at a really, really, really high level. You've played some really good defenses, really good football teams, and for the most part have been dominant until you got into that mindset of now you have a comfortable lead and you're trying to get home. And you've also mentioned a couple of times, including today, the phrase "not wanting to do something stupid." So what I was curious about is, as an offensive coordinator who's kind of piloting this high octane machine and inspiring thoughts because of how well you're playing, how much pressure is it on you as a play caller to know or have the feel when to dial it back, when to call it a little bit differently, and just strike that balance?
I don't think it's pressure. I mean, I think you got to use common sense. It's not about a certain ego, or I'm not trying to get a certain amount of yards or whatever. All I'm trying to do is play complementary football. I trust the people around me. We tell our players to trust each other. I tell Carson, look, trust the people around you, trust the O-line, trust the running backs. It's no different in my situation. I trust our defense. I trust our special teams. I trust our head coach. And so I know that it isn't just about me. And so I'm a servant in this process. And so I'm trying to do everything I can do offensively to run the game, to win the game. I'm not trying to do anything other than just win the game. And so ultimately that's going to look different at times. Sometimes it's going to look like 250 yards rushing and 150 yards passing. Sometimes it's going to be 300 yards passing and 70 yards rushing if they want to commit that way. And then there's certain situations and flow of the game where, heck, no different than the situation I was just talking about. We're up 28-3 in the fourth quarter and we get a holding penalty, so we're backed up on like the 15. Well, that's one of those situations where, look, I don't want to do anything stupid. Like, I can try to throw like a deep dagger route right there if y'all want me to. But ultimately, there's a lot of things that can happen there that's going to hurt our team. And so sometimes, punting and making that other team drive the field is not the worst thing. And we did the one thing I thought, not one, but one of the few things that I was really proud of is we didn't have any turnovers. So if you really look at their drive chart versus our drive chart, they had to drive the whole field almost the whole game. There was one possession they got at midfield, but ultimately the whole game they had to drive the field. And so that's hard to do versus our defense. I've done it at practice. I've tried to do it at practice, so I know how hard it is to block those guys. And so ultimately that's the answer to your question is it's not as much pressure as it is just having some common sense and some wherewithal about how this team is organized, and ultimately just trying to put ourselves in position to win the game. And you're right. I mean, I will say this, just to add on to what you said, our first 5 games of the year have not been like some of these other guys' first 5 games. We've been battle tested and we've played a lot of defenses that are high end defenses. And I thought our guys have performed well and put us in position to win the games. And obviously we have. So very proud of that.
Got time for 2 more. We'll go back to David first. David, go ahead.
Yeah, Coach, wanted to ask you about 2 guys, just, you being around them for the first time in a road game type of environment. Of course, Carson, a veteran guy, but your first time being around him. And then Malachi, obviously had a great game, but it was his first road game in that type of environment. Just what you noticed about how they handled that atmosphere, that challenge.
Carson doesn't get affected by anything. I mean, there's not an atmosphere that's going to affect him. He's very calm. He's in control of everything. He's out there changing stuff or whatever all the way to the last second at times. And so I don't worry about him. I mean, he's played a lot of football in some of the best venues in America. So now Tony, on the other hand, hasn't played as much football, but the game is not too big for him. He plays the game as if we're playing it on Green Tree. He doesn't really get too caught up in the outside stuff outside of the actual football field. And so I appreciate that with him being a young guy. You know, he doesn't get emotionally involved in the game. He focuses on the play and the execution of the play. And so I thought we handled the atmosphere well. It was a good atmosphere, and we handled it well. We did have a couple penalties that hurt drives that we have to clean up, but ultimately we handled the environment well. And you know, the couple that stick out is the touchdown that got called back with Malley. I mean, that breaks my heart because it was such a great play, and he made half the defense miss. And so, you know, you make that play and it's 35-3. So
And we'll wrap up with Adam. Adam, go ahead.
Hey, again, I also wanted to ask about Malachi and just, how you've seen him, you see him develop all through spring and fall. Now that the actual season, how has he kind of grown mentally or, just in his skills over the, course of the first month or so of the season?
we saw his skills early, and you're hesitant to say much about it because until you put it on Saturday, it doesn't matter. And so that was evident. His ability was evident early. Now, what makes him a unique person and unique player is his personality is very consistent. He doesn't he doesn't have good days and bad days. He just is very like flatline, just the same person every day, which is what I appreciate. And we have a lot of guys like that, and that's what you're really looking for as an athlete. You don't want to be too high or too low. You know, just kind of be right in the middle and have a steady personality where you just go about your way and do your job. And he has that. You know, he's a pretty quiet kid. He's very humble. And so the one thing you worry about with kids his age is having this type of success is, and y'all said it on here, and Coach says it a lot, but the rat poison's out there, and I keep him grounded, and it's not hard because he's a very humble kid, and so I just appreciate the way he goes about his business every day.
Great. Thank you, Shannon. We'll see you next week. We'll go to David Lake. David, go ahead.